Okay, hey there. So I'm going to pick up where we left off in the last little review lesson. And I'm going to take my main idea sentence over here. Control B. Right. Now, you might have you probably will have a pretty similar sentence to what I have here, because if we are stating the author's main idea and reporting what she states in her article, we're all going to have very similar sentences, okay? Because we're just saying, here's what she says. So if yours is very similar to mine, that's okay. If it's exactly the same as mine, I would try to make a couple little changes to it. But remember, what we're trying to do is get these 4 general ideas into our sentence, okay? All right, so now let's look at what we have going on here, these reasons. The other thing that sometimes people are having trouble with here, and we might need to clarify it on the assignment, which is, kind of our fault on our end. We want to write a sentence for each major detail in your own words. All right, that was one thing that as I was going through the assignments, I thought, oh, that could be clarified. And then the other thing, let's see, 1, 2, 3. I think that when you get this document, remember it says here, add or delete rows as needed. So I think some people are, not really sure about that. This article that you're working with is already broken down into chunks with these lines, okay? So that means that the first chunk is paragraphs 1 through 3. So I'm going to go here and just give you a reminder, paras 1 to 3. The next chunk is 4, 5, 6. Paras 4 to 6. The next chunk is 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 7 to 12. The next one, I think, is 13 to 15. Yep, 13 to 15. The next one is 16 to 18. And the last one, I think, is 19 to 20, if I'm not mistaken. 19 and 20, okay. So this article was kind of pre-chunked for you. You're not always going to get that, okay? Sometimes if you have section headings, that helps you to see sort of the organizational or structural breakdown of the article. We did this one for you to kind of give you a little stepping stone. And hopefully in Unit 4, I believe, or sometime before Unit 4, I can show you how to do those chunks yourself if the article isn't already chunked, okay? But since it's already chunked for you, what we're going to do is focus on each of these sections. So since there's 6 sections, we're going to be looking for 6 major details, okay? And we're going to write sentences for each of these chunks. And what I would do is pretty much what we did. I lost my mouse. There it is. Pretty much what we did looking for the main idea sentence, but now we're just going to focus on each chunk and what's being repeated in that chunk. All right, so if we look at the article here, you'll find that we're probably going to see social media and negative mental health and maybe even government regulations repeated in each chunk, since those are coming up throughout the whole article. But what we want to look for then in each chunk is what concept is particular to that chunk. Like what's the new idea that comes up and what's repeated in that chunk that wasn't really mentioned before. That's the hint that that you want to look for. This is also what eventually, when you start chunking articles yourself, will help you do those chunks yourself. It's like, well, okay, when does the author bring in a new topic? And that's going to give you a hint that that's a new section or a new chunk in that article, all right? So let's focus right here on these first 3 paragraphs. All right, so we see social media. I probably don't need to highlight social media and negative effects because we know that that's going to come up a lot. I'll just do it this first time. Okay. Amid debate, experts have found that social media use appears linked to negative mental health impacts among young people. Researchers have noted a rise in depression among young people. You hear that repetition? So let's see if that's what she's repeating here. Oops, I wanted to do a different color there. Green. There we go. Young people since about 2012. With use of social media among teens, young people, and their amount of time spent online increasing in close proximity. The other thing I see repeated here are the ideas of increase and rising. Okay. Earlier this year, the Reboot Foundation, which I run, surveyed more than 1,000 Americans on their social media usage, and we found a disturbing impact on mental health. So there's social media and mental health. Social media, public health, age restrictions. Okay, so then we still see that stuff here. So what's repeated a lot in this section are the ideas of teens and increase, social media, negative mental health effects. So let's list those. Teens, young people, adolescents. Might not be able to find like a good synonym here other than one of those. Let's see. This is the one that we had some pretty fun ones here, like hobbledehoy. I don't know what that is. Teeny bopper, whippersnapper. Like I'd like to use one of those because they're fun words. Juveniles, maybe. Youngsters, minors. We could maybe put minors. Juveniles. But we don't want to use anything that's going to sound awkward. So if we have to use a word that she uses, that's fine. Because remember, we're also going to switch up the order of ideas in a sentence. We have increase. One of the ones that came up in one of my classes was surge. Let's see if we can find any other words that would give us some options here. Outpouring, swell. I don't like any of those. Oh, here we go. Escalation, upswing is kind of good. Escalation. Boost kind of has a positive connotation to it. We'll talk about that in another. Rise. Growth. Okay. Social media. Negative mental health. She talks about government regulations, but we might, when we're doing the major detail sentences, we might not need to have all of like the government regulations in every sentence. That might sound a little awkward. So here, I would probably focus on these. All right. So I'm probably going to use young people, even though that's the phrase she uses, just because I think any of the other ones might sound a little awkward. Increase, upswing, growth. Does she use growth? Yeah, we can use growth, I think. Social media. We're going to use negative mental health effects. What were some of the other options we had up above? Psychological well-being, negative mental health effects, harmful to teens, psychological health. All right. So then we take those concepts and we write our own sentence. Oops, we don't need all these bullets. Oh, sugar and spice. There we go. Okay. And if it helps you to do Bourget's states, that's fine. That as teens use of social media has grown. As also, I don't know, I feel like I'm using her words. Rise in depression. Okay, no, that's fine. Use of, here, maybe we could say technology has grown. There has also been a surge, like surge, in mental health issues among these users. Okay. I need an apostrophe in here. Yep. Okay. Make sense? Let me do one more. All right. Now this one was a little tricky. A lot of people got caught up in this misinformation bit here about the COVID-19 vaccine, but notice that that's just mentioned in passing here. So I would not count that as a major detail. So let's see what she really gets into here. All right. So the misinformation is killing people, but she says that this is nothing compared to social media's threat to our national mental health. So she's actually using this as a comparison because this was something that was very current in the news at the time. And she's saying, let's not get distracted by this. We need to focus on this bigger issue. Okay? So the misinformation, since she only mentions that very much in passing, and it doesn't get repeated through this whole section, I would not include that as a major detail. That's actually going to come up in the evidence, right? Okay, so let's see what is repeated here. So again, threat to national mental health. Social media's threat to our national mental health. There's that repeated concept. So let's see what she gets into here that's actually new and also repeated. More than half of the people we surveyed acknowledge that their social media use intensified their feelings of anxiety, depression, or loneliness. Okay, so a lot of people are saying that social media hurts their mental health, so we already have that covered. They also told us that it contributed to their low self-esteem and made it harder for them to concentrate. Social media, bad for mental health. So this is all stuff that we've heard before. Yet, despite recognizing these deleterious effects, only about a third said they had taken steps to limit their social media use. So this is the new idea, right? Even though users know the harm social media is having on their mental health, they're unwilling or unable to limit their use of these platforms. Okay? So that's the new idea in this section. So we still have social media, negative effects on mental health. Users know it's bad. Users can't stop using it. All right. So, Bourges. And the other thing I want you to keep in mind is that when I'm writing these sentences, I try not to look at the article itself. I'm trying to just keep these concepts in my head or look at my list. Now, I didn't do that bit where I put the synonyms in because I'm trying to just move along here. Users know the negative effects on their mental health. So she says no. Let's see if we can find another word for that. Are aware of. Okay, are aware of. We could probably use that. Realize. Understand is another good one. Okay, so users. They're unwilling or unable. Users refuse to stop using social media even though they understand that it's deleterious effects, that it's harmful, that it's causing mental health problems. I don't like the word problems there. Issues, maybe. Sometimes I do this, and if I'm not really crazy about the word that I have there, I might just put a couple options and come back to it later. Let's see what I find if I do issues, troubles, complications, dilemmas, like a Katzenjammer? No. So let's stick with the ones up here. Or just say problems, troubles, complications, maybe. All right. So it's like I'm not really sure which word I want to use there, so I'm just going to do that. Okay? So that's how we would come up with the major detail sentences. So you're going to have 6 of them, one for each of the chunks in here. And I would go through each chunk. You're going to see social media, negative mental health, probably government regulation repeated a lot. So what you want to look for is what's new in each chunk and use those concepts to write your sentences. Okay? So I hope that helped you with that column here. So let me kind of show you. Well, oops, sorry. Boop. Copy. What was this one? My cat is right here and she keeps scratching me. This. It's going to be this one here, okay? Oops. And again, your sentence will probably be similar to mine. Try not to use the exact same sentence, but you're going to have very similar concepts there because we're just reporting what she said, all right? So if you had trouble with the major detail sentences, there's a little hint to help you with that. All right, I'm going to move on. I'll do another one about evidence and then counter-argument. I think most people did okay with counter-argument, but I'll do a little bit about that. All right. Let me know if any questions come up.